Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well and thank you for spending a few minutes with me and planning your Medicare options for next year. If you've been with me for a few years now, I always use these videos not only to remind you about the Medicare annual enrollment period, but to give some general updates coming up with Medicare next year. Now, I'll start this video by reminding you that Medicare plans are not one size fits all. What's good for your friend will not necessarily be the right fit for you. What we want is to be strategic when choosing our Medicare plan, making sure we're maximizing coverage to best fit our health needs and budget. If you've watched my video last year, I talked about some unprecedented changes to the Medicare program. You may recall hearing about the Inflation Reduction Act, passed by the Biden administration a few years ago, and its impact on prescription drug plans. Well, over the course of this past year, as expected, we saw a lot of changes, some ups, some downs. Many people saw increased costs, plan terminations, loss of doctors and medical groups. Well, fasten your seatbelts because 2026 is going to have a lot of the same. The reality is, as you know, and you know this if you've been on Medicare for a while, that like other things, Medicare goes through cycles. We have booms, we have downturns, and 2026 is shaping up to have some ups and downs as we settle down from a few years of generous coverage and out-of-pocket costs. In reality, we're seeing somewhat of a market correction in Medicare, caused by government regulations, increased financial pressure on insurance companies, and higher utilization of medical, hospital, and pharmacy services post-COVID. Now, as you can tell, this is very important information, and so I'm excited to get a head start on things. If you're already a current client, you should have received a few emails and text messages from me with a link to update your information for next year so that we can navigate the changes that are going to affect you together. I also want to ask you to share this text or email with your friends and family that are also on Medicare or going to be on Medicare soon, because they need to know this information. Now, a lot of the changes are not going to affect everybody. Again, everybody's situation is different. Many of you will not have to do anything at all as far as changing your plan. Others may be forced to or may want to because of benefit changes. So by now, you should have received your annual notice of change. We call it ANOC from your Medicare insurance company. Please take a moment to look at that. Sometimes the ANOC is long and confusing, so just focus on the pages that do kind of a side-by-side comparison on what's changing in 2026 compared to 2025. That's going to be your first clue as to how your specific plan is going to change next year. So let's start with some of the main changes coming to Medicare next year. First of all, as a reminder, the federal government charges you for Medicare. If you're collecting Social Security retirement income, it's coming straight out of that. And if not, you're being billed by Medicare, either by mail or you may have that set up on auto draft from your bank account. Now, the standard monthly premium for Medicare this year is $185 a month. That may sound familiar to you. For next year, it hasn't been officially announced yet, but the projection is that the government is going to charge somewhere between $205 and $210 per month for Medicare. So that's going up a little bit. Now, a couple of things to note. If you have full Medi-Cal, or Medicaid as it's known in other states, this is the state program for low-income individuals. You're probably enrolled in the Medicare Savings Program, where the state is paying that Medicare premium for you. Also, if you make a higher income, the government charges you even more for Medicare. Next, if you're on regular Medicare and you pay extra for a Medicare supplement plan, Medigap plans such as Plan G or Plan N. The annual deductible for medical services this year is $257. That's projected to go up to between $285 and $290. So that's the amount that you are responsible for before Medicare pays 80% and your supplemental pays 20%. Now, let's move on to Part D, the prescription drug plan. There are two ways to get a prescription drug plan. It's either integrated into your Medicare Advantage plan, or if you have a Medicare supplement plan, you also have a separate prescription drug plan, and you're paying separately for that. Many people are going to see increases in their overall medication costs. There's still going to be a few lower out-of-pocket cost prescription drug plans, but some of the plans are going to have higher monthly premiums. Also, there's a separate deductible for prescription drug plans. Remember, a deductible is the amount that you pay first before your plan starts to help with the cost of medications in this case. This year, depending on which drug plan you have and which medications you take, the deductible range may differ. Next year, the range is going to increase, again, depending on your plan and your medications. If you take brand name or expensive medications, there's a good chance that you will have to pay a deductible next year. Now, this is very important. Analyzing your prescription drug plan is one of the most important factors in selecting your plan and estimating what you're going to pay at the pharmacy next year. So please don't skip this part. Lastly, for people who do take pricey medications, this year, 2025, the government did set a cap on medication costs at $2,000. Next year, it's going to be $2,100. But remember, if you're taking inexpensive, generic medications, you're not going to get anywhere near that. If you do take brand name or more expensive medications, let's do a medication review. For many of you, if you've been used to paying a lower copay for your medications, you may be asked to pay a little bit. Even if you're on Medi-Cal and you have the Extra Help Program, also known as LIS or Low Income Subsidy. So just be prepared for some increased costs to your medications when you go to the pharmacy. Now, for those of you who are on a Medicare Advantage plan, whether it's HMO or PPO, there will be several plans that are being canceled. So please keep an eye out on any mail coming from your insurance company and call me to find out what your options are. Please, you don't want to be left out in the cold on this one. For those of you who are on a Medicare Advantage HMO plan, copays and coverage are expected to be fairly stable, but we may see some changes, especially to some of the extra benefits, like dental and things like that. If you're on Medicare and Medi-Cal, the Medicare Advantage dual special needs plans will remain the same, though we might see some changes to some of the dollar amounts being offered for them. We still have some PPO options for people who want to have more choice of providers. PPOs, of course, do not require referrals like an HMO does. But what we are seeing is some destabilization in the PPO plans. Word is that the insurance companies aren't doing too well financially with the PPO plans, and so they're making adjustments. Again, keep an eye out for any notices coming from your insurance company and take action to make sure you're on a replacement plan for next year. For a lot of my clients who are on PPO, I've already reached out to you and we've got some kind of plan of action in place. If not, give me a call. If you're on a Medicare supplement plan, I know that monthly costs have been going up these last few years. I told you they would. I also told you to feel free to let me know how much you're paying now, and I can review your plan options. Next, I want to touch on something that I hear all the time, and I'm sure you'll agree. What's with all the Medicare phone call solicitations? Well, unfortunately, these continue to be a nuisance for many people, and the government is trying to combat these calls. I strongly urge you, do not engage in conversation. In fact, in my monthly newsletter that goes out by email, I recorded a video on this topic. That's the October newsletter. I continue to see situations where people get talked into switching their plan and they end up losing their doctors, they get put on the wrong plan, their costs go up, and many more such stories. Remember, Medicare does not allow unsolicited phone calls to beneficiaries. So all these people calling you without your permission, they're in violation of Medicare compliance, and they're beginning a relationship with you in bad faith. If you do hear of a plan that sounds interesting to you, just call me. I'll tell you if your plan has these benefits or if you're even eligible for it. But please avoid the calls. And especially if you're on original Medicare, paying for a Medicare supplement plan F, G, or N, and you have a separate prescription drug plan, please be extra careful of calls from your drug plan or others offering you to switch to a Medicare Advantage plan and luring you with lower out-of-pocket costs. Agreeing to this change could have consequences to your access to doctors and healthcare options in general for the rest of your life. So please, if you're offered something, call me and I can confirm with you the pros and cons. Almost every day, we're finding opportunities to maximize coverage and to get more choices of providers. So if it's been a few years since we've reviewed your Medicare plan, please use the link that I sent out to update your information. Please urge your friends to give me a call, especially if they're already on Medicare. If you haven't done the medication update, I'm going to include a link to my Medicare annual enrollment period plan review portal. If you haven't done this already, it's a great way to update your medications, doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies so that I have everything up to date to complete your annual Medicare plan review. So take a moment to complete that if you haven't already. As always, I'm wishing everyone a great rest of the year, a great holiday season and new year, and lots of health and happiness for you and your families. Please reach out to me, your licensed insurance agent, if you have any questions about your Medicare plan, your medication costs, and your providers, and I'll be happy to help you out. That's what I'm here for. The Medicare annual enrollment period goes from October 15 through December 7, so let's make sure we're prepared for any changes next year. I'll talk to you soon.